When students want to make a change or addition to the cafeteria menu or other aspect, what can they do to suggest that?
Well, first they would go to their student senate, food committee liaison. That would be that'd be one way to do it. But preferably, we like to. We don't really want to know that there's a change, a group of people coming to us and say we want to be ahead of the curve and already have known that we want to have that relationship with the students already. The ladies out there know what the feel of the student body is, because one of the things that changes is what was good 4 years ago is not necessarily good today, and what's good today is not going to be good 4 years from now. So we like to, so it's a fluid kind of thing to see where the trends are going and what the prospective students are bringing in and what their answers are and what they desire and things like that. But we already kind of like to talk to, we could do a formal survey, but that's not really necessarily the best. But by talking to somebody and saying, I live in Dallas and I go to this and we go to that and this is the way of my lifestyle, so that we want to know what's important already before we get there. But if they do want something, they say, well, I want to have a change in the menu, I want to see more chicken parmesan, or I want to see more fajitas, or those burritos suck that you have every Monday that you have, or I'm a vegan vegetarian with allergies and I got this and I don't want to do this and all that. We want to know that up front, and we want that one-to-one relationship. So before it goes all the way through the student committees and the food committee, and then they bring it to us and then we have that. So anyway.
So you mentioned the food services liaison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how long has that position been around? That's a position in Student Senate?
Yeah, those groups have been around since, well, I don't know how long they've been around, but I know they were around in the 70s when I was in college. That was always it probably started in the 60s where the evolution of students, in my generation, we're not going to have those old people telling us what to do. We're going to have input as to how we're, going to run and what we want and what direction we want to go and things like that. So yeah, it's been there probably since the 60s. I don't really know,
Yeah.
or the 70s anyway.
Well, what does that job entail?
The liaison.
Yeah, the liaison job.
Well, it depends on what the person wants to. It's a relationship between the student body and the Senate. It's a position on the Senate that therefore the students, and then they have representatives from all the dorms and or whatever housing or off campus, and they come together and then they relay it to the food service liaison, and then that person comes in and discuss it with me and says, there's a couple of them that they would like from mundane things like your French fries were cold on Tuesday, and this, and we'd like to see water, we like sparkling water, or this, or we need more fruit, or why don't you have the orange juice machine on, or to different things like meal plans, suggestions, later hours. We would like lattes at dinner time, or we need smoothies, or things like that come, and then we discuss those kind of, from big decisions of meal plans to we need strawberry jelly and you only have grape out there, those kind of things.
So how does the suggestion, like for strawberry jelly, in addition to grape jelly, how does that turn from a suggestion to reality?
Well, basically, it's if you were out there and somebody, my hope is that we stand out there and you have that relationship with the line servers. We spend the extra time and money to have when you come through the line, that you talk to Martha and you see her, and she, because you can serve yourself, we know that. But we like to have that relationship, and you get to talk and you get to know her, and so Martha gets to understand, when you come up and you turn your nose or whatever the case is, she knows she should come back and say, they really didn't like that, Mike. or they love that, or they didn't, so you do that. If it's jelly or something, you can see one of us out there, or Trudy or somebody, and say, I really like strawberry jelly instead of just grape jelly. Why don't we have that? And then she'll come and say, hey, one of the students said that they would prefer to have that. And I go, well, we got rid of it because we didn't have enough space out there, or we've kind of got caught and we forgot about it. But we can do that. That make everybody happy. We can do that. It's no real scientific change. It's just really what the customer desires are at that time, and so on. It's like tomato juice. Every once in a while, somebody will say, oh, we really want tomato juice. Well, we might put it out there for that year or two that those people are there that really like it. But for the most part, tomato juice, I love tomato juice, but for the most part, it's just a non-go,
Yeah.
and so we don't have V8 or something like that. We just don't do that. So we can, apple juice and all those other juices pull more weight than that. Same with cereals and things like that. So.
Okay. And I suppose my last question is, what has your experience with student-driven or student-initiated change been like at Hendrix?
Oh, it's well, I go back to '87, and I find it. I've been in the food business all my life. From nursing homes, and then I was a hotel and restaurant major, and I was going to be in the different private sector. But one of the things I do love about colleges that you don't have at any other of these venues is the interaction with students who live here, and they're exciting, and they see a lot of things differently than older people and they are on a mission, and food can become an educational part of their life, and it becomes a huge part, but you may not know it at the time, but it's an intricate part. At first, when I came here back in '87, 27 years ago, there were crazy things like buying local, that were just way out there, and buying organic. And then somebody mentioned, the fact of, environmentally sensitive things. Maybe we ought to, do some things on that. Then we went into, thinking about nutrition and things, and educating people, and putting little things up. And then a student came to me and says, "What about, I'm a vegetarian?" And I was like, "Okay." And she says, "I'm experimenting with it." And I said, "Okay, well, there's vegetables out there." And she goes, "Yeah, but I only like carrots, and my hands are turning orange." And she showed me, and they're all orange. I was like, wow. And of course, we didn't have the internet, but we had to go find a book on vegetarianism. We didn't know that you could make entrees and things. Those people were really out there. And then, but it was it's a unique thing. So we learned a great deal about them, and how to serve, and nutritionally, and things, and the Hendrix experience, and we were driven to the variety of meals. We're still a small place, and we try to put the charts out there. So hopefully when you leave here, you know about nutrition, or you say, "Oh, I remember seeing those at the cafeteria," or balanced diet. It's a great place to try new things that you may not try, because if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. You can try new and different things. We've experimented with the organic. We're getting into local. We'd like to have a trash compactor, or a composter, and things that are cutting edge, buying local. And we had a Rockefeller grant one time in the Hendrix Food Project, where it was exciting, where we were going out and working with the farmers co-op, and we figured out how to do all these things, and what would work, what wouldn't work, and how much money it takes to do that, and then buying, like I say, buy local. And those are all things that outside you wouldn't even consider doing. Or if I went to a restaurant and I said, "Hey, I want to do this," they'd think we were crazy. And when I go to buying, I'm on a buying group, advisory committee for this large buying group that we buy from. And I've been on it for a long time now, 6-7 years. But when we started, we were trying to tell these people, what's your facility like? Is it energy, on your packaging? And because our students are asking this, and they looked at us like we were from Mars, like, yeah, they really do care. They want to know, is it local? Are you treating your guys? Is it chemically induced, or what is all these things? And they're just like, that's just crazy. Well, now the first thing they do is they show these slides of all these things that are important to us, and so we're driving them in their packaging, and we're driving them, and those are kind of neat things to see, that and it makes your job interesting rather than, well, it's Tuesday, it must be meatloaf, and I guess the best thing is what I'm doing now with you and the interaction you have with students and things like that you don't have with, customers come into Chili's and order a beer and a chili burger, you just don't get that.